So we're heading down towards our ambassador enclosure, home to Silus, Nakai, and there's going to be a step on the ramp right there. So
you don't have to. You can walk forward.
You can, yeah, if you want to show the enclosure. Commitment to the stream. So we're looking into Silus and Nakai's enclosure. Many of you, I imagine, were with us last year when we introduced Maya to Silus as a puppy. Silus is now over a year old and looks nothing like a puppy.
Yeah.
And he's somewhere in this enclosure.
So Chet, they do lots of education here. They have school programs come out. They have tents. This is Nakai over here.
Hey, Robin.
And they do public
Can
programs.
you I have a mic on. Can you radio Rebecca?
Teach people about
and ask
wolves.
if she can bring us the
so
ice
these are the
pops
two
that she had
ambassadors
mentioned
that
for
they have.
Silus and Nakai. Thank you.
Alveus is doing. These are non-releasable and their primary purpose is to educate the public.
And so Silus is down.
Platypus, thank you so much.
Down there, probably trying to figure out what we're doing here. We have some ice pops that are going to be coming up for him and Nakai as some encouragement. Yeah, and there goes Nakai. So Silus and Nakai, for anyone who maybe doesn't remember from last year or is new to the stream, Silus and Nakai, we call them brothers. They're not actually related. They did come from the same captive breeding facility out in Nevada. Nakai joined us in 2014 when he was a few weeks old, and Silus joined us last year when he was also a few weeks old. And they are what we call ambassadors. So as Maya said, these are wolves that can't be released. They are gray wolves. Gray wolves are a pretty common type of wolf. Gray wolves are found in the US, Canada, but also found in Europe and Asia as well. And in the United States, when gray wolves were killed off, there was still a population of gray wolves in Canada. And they were able to bring some of those wolves down into the U.S. to help repopulate. So there were never captive to wild releases of gray wolves. So when wolves like Silus and Nakai are born in captivity, they're not legally allowed to be released into the wild. And so knowing that, we thought, you know what, we can probably give them an amazing life here, but we can also help connect people to wild wolves through seeing them. For many of our visitors, Silus is the first wolf they're ever going to see, maybe the only wolf they will ever see. And by watching Silus, they can learn about, wolf behavior. They learn that wolves have personalities. They can be goofy. They can act a lot like our dogs. Oh, thank you. They can act a lot like our dogs. So really just very charismatic, entertaining, and we also want them, of course, to know that we value them. So we think about enrichment. How do we keep these wolves active, engaged, and learning? Because if you look around their enclosure, it looks pretty large. In total, it's about 2 acres in size. And it has everything you would see in a wild territory. They have a pond, they have dens, they have, beyond the pond, they have another water source. We give them food, but they're still confined. And in the wild, wolves can travel, 30 miles in a day. So depending on the type of wolf and their habitat, their territory can be over 1,000 square miles in size. And so we want these wolves, we never want them to wonder if they're missing out. We want them to feel as though this is their life and it's full, it's engaging. And so we give them toys.
That was a question that I had on my list is what kind of enrichment do you guys do? I know you said ice, which is very cool.
Yeah, so we do a lot of enrichment. So we do, ice enrichment is great in the summer. And we also do like dog toys. So you'll see some Kong toys in there. There's like a red one that's hidden. We give them really anything that's new that they're not going to get harmed by, or they won't get sick.
They also get whole prey relatively often, right? You guys do roadkill?
Yeah, so our red wolves and Mexican gray wolves only get roadkill or native fish or something of the sort. But Silus and Nakai get pretty much anything. So we get donations from Whole Foods. There's also a local organic grocery store called Mom's Market. They give us donations as well. So Silus will get beef, pork, chicken, like a whole chicken, sometimes feathers on too. If we have a lot of roadkill that we can spare some, we'll give it to Silus and Nakai. They also get snacks during all of our education programs. So we are open to the public. They can come to public programs, private programs. every year we're reaching about 19 to 20,000 people through our education programs. And during those programs, the wolves get small snacks. So that might be a handful of shrimp, liver. Honestly, we've probably fed it all. Like anything you can think of, the wolves have probably had. And sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't. But it's something new. So we never view it as like, oh no, Silus doesn't like it. Silus likes everything. But we never view it as like, oh no, this food didn't work. Then it just serves as enrichment. It's just something new for them to smell. They had some bubbles a few weeks ago. We brought a bubble machine. So fun. And that was fun. Nakai had seen bubbles before. Silus had not. But we, you know, sometimes in the winter, we'll go in and build snowmen for the wolves, and we'll stick like, you know, different types of food on the snow.
That's awesome.
When Nakai was living here with his older siblings, Zephyr and Alewa, we built, a lot of our ideas are so grand in our heads, and we kind of think, oh, this is exactly how it's going to play out. And then we do it and it doesn't. Like the wolves are scared of it, or it just doesn't work out. But
yeah, anything you try really hard on.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Cardboard box.
We once brought in a huge refrigerator cardboard box. And we were like, this is going to be the best thing ever. And so we hyped it up during a program. Yeah. We had people watching, and the wolves were too scared of it because it was so big. So then we were trying to throw stuff at it from outside the enclosure to knock it over. And then the wolves were, it was just a whole thing. But with the snowman, Alewa, we had moved the wolves out during a program, let the public go in, and, you know, we were building this big snowman. We put a lot of food as the eyes, the mouth, everything. Move the people out, let the wolves come back in, and Alewa beheaded the snowman immediately, like launched herself at it, knocked it on the ground. So
that's fun though. Yeah, I'm sure they loved it.
So a lot of fun, you know, and enrichment's great because it shows that the wolves do, even though they've been raised the same way, they're, you know, they were siblings, but even Silus and Nakai, you can tell food's coming.
Oh boy.
But they are still their own unique animals, right? You know, and so no reaction is a bad reaction. It's just how they choose to do it. So we do have some snacks coming up for the wolves. They have an excellent sense of smell, excellent sense of hearing. And so they do know they're getting food. So we have our curator, Rebecca, coming up. She has made some popsicles. I forget what meat she put in there. She can tell us. But they're in buckets. So we try to make the popsicles as big as we can so they last a bit longer. We can do, you know, like small cups. We do that a lot with we can move down a bit too. I think she might be feeding from down here. We do that a lot with our summer camp kids because it's easy for them to contribute. But the wolves like can chew that in 2 seconds. So these bigger blocks are meant to encourage them to kind of lay down and stay a while they're eating.
Southern Playalistic, thank you for the $100 donation. It Burns, thank you for the $250 donation.
Are you feeding from Tower or
Massachusetts guy? Thank you for several $5 donations.
But up here? Oh, perfect. Okay.
15. Bagel.
Yeah.
Thank you for the 5.
So they're going to feed
out on a screen with 15. Death Powers, thank you for the $100 donation.
Yeah, so we're just loosening up the ice blocks.
Okay, great. Wow.
With some water. So she'll bring them up here. Yeah. We have a tower that you can see as well. So sometimes we throw larger items off the tower. But Rebecca has enlisted the help of someone else who's kind of guaranteed to make it over this overhang without anything getting stuck. I've gotten stuff stuck before, so.
Me too.
Oh, I once got a deer leg stuck.
Oh no.
Yeah, it got down. But the worst is when it would happen during a program and you're panicking. But here we go. So Silus is getting so excited. He's going to start jumping. And it's funny because Nakai used to do this and taught Silus, and Nakai learned from his older brother, who Silus never met, but you're seeing the same behaviors kind of carried on. So, Rebecca, what's in the popsicle?
So this is water with liver. Liversicles.
Water with liver, yeah.
So water with liver. And they're going to shift up because this is probably a little too tall right here. No pressure, Jim. But...
Oh my God.
So you'll see some of the blocks there. And basically what's going to happen is Jim, one of our volunteers, he's going to toss it in, wait for Silus to commit to that one, and then he'll toss in for Nakai. Nakai's a little uneasy sometimes around new groups, but perfect. And that way everyone has one. Silus might try. Nope. Silus is always thinking there's something else. So he'll now run back. And so they've committed to their snacks. Nakai's going to move away with his, and Silus is going to stay and chew on his. I'm just going to open this.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Chet, they have what do you call these? Photo frame?
Yeah, like photo flaps.
Photo flaps.
And you can, just if he gets close, be careful, but you'll see. And so wolves have really strong jaws and a lot of teeth as well. So
we need some of these.
He's really going to be kind of like figuring out how to get to the liver. He'll probably be frustrated. He has to bite through the ice. And so this is pure enrichment. So it's not meant to take the place of a meal. Always thinking. Yeah, they know the buckets are used for food. And so he'll keep thinking. But he should be careful because Nakai might finish his and then come around for Silas's.
So Regan, is this typically what your education programs look like? You have people come and sit on these bleachers, you use your classroom, or?
Yeah, so when people come for programs, we start in our classroom that I know is going to probably be in your vlog. So we start in our classroom and we can have up to about 40 people at a time. And we start with the basic introduction to wolves. A lot of people who come to visit have never seen a wolf. They only know about wolves from any books or movies, but they might not understand their history in the U.S., challenges they face, or even the types of wolves that live here. So we start with the general introduction to get everyone on the same page. And then we come up to this enclosure where we spend most of our time. And we have a visitor viewing area, so people sit on bleachers. And a member of our education team is giving a program. So they give the wolves snacks and various scent enrichment. They're answering questions, but they're also highlighting the wolf enclosure. They're highlighting their adaptations, talking about, you know, Silus and his personality, Nakai and his, sharing their stories. And then we also travel up to that on-exhibit Mexican gray wolf enclosure we saw and the on-exhibit red wolf enclosure as well. And it's a great way to kind of expose people to wolves in a really engaging fashion. We always want people to leave feeling inspired to continue to do more and learn more about wolves to make the world a bit better for them.
Chat, now's a great time to ask any questions if you have any. I know I've read a couple out while we've been walking around, but if you have any specific ones while we're watching Silus.
Really go to town. So you'll see he's using his feet as well to kind of stabilize the ice block as he's gnawing into it. Wolves have the same amount of teeth as our dogs do. So Silus is really using his canine teeth, the long curved teeth, top and bottom, to latch onto that ice block, and then trying to use his incisors, his molars to really grind it. This is something that, you know, is not a typical thing for him to eat. So it is a bit more challenging for him to get a good grip on it. But for wolves in the wild, you know, wolves are going to be chasing animals like bison, elk, moose, deer, animals that are a lot bigger than wolves and a lot faster. So if Silus were living in the wild, he and Nakai would be working together. Wolves hunt in packs. And Silus would most likely try to bring whichever animal he's chasing on the ground as quickly as possible. And usually that might mean going for their neck. But when a wolf latches on to like a moose, the moose is immediately going to try to shake them off. They're a lot bigger than wolves. They can easily kill wolves. And so that's where Silus's really strong jaw would come into play. So he's not going to get shaken off, but those canine teeth are latching on. So even in what we feed the wolves here, while it might not be, you know, a whole moose or a whole deer, we are seeing the same uses and behaviors of what they would do.
Yeah. There's a few questions about roadkill. So why do you feed out roadkill and where do you get it from?
So we feed roadkill definitely for our red wolves and Mexican gray wolves because we want them to be eating prey that they can, that they're like encouraged to eat in the wild. So when Mexican gray wolves are released into the wild, for example, they are released into a few different national forests, but livestock producers can graze their livestock on those national forest lands at a very cheap cost. And the presence of those domesticated livestock tends to displace native prey. So that means if you have livestock in an area, you might not have as many elk. And we don't want a Mexican gray wolf going out seeing a lot of cows and thinking, oh, I ate beef when I was in captivity, I should eat beef here. So we give them the native prey to kind of encourage that that mentality. But it's also good for social development because wolves are eating off of a whole carcass together, and they would do that in the wild as well. So with Ecal, for example, growing up, you know, he's now eating raw meat. And so he's learning, you know, what does it mean to be part of a family that's feeding off of a whole carcass? How do I eat? Kind of what's the process? It's also a great, like, no-cost food item for us.
Right, yeah. Totally.
So we have a really great support system in the local community. People can call us and we'll go pick it up. We have a good relationship with the police department. They'll call us. They'll drop things off. The transportation department drops things off. So we get donations from hunters during deer hunting season. So a lot of great ways to get food for the wolves. And with red wolves, there have been some studies from the Smithsonian looking at the gut biomes of red wolves. And they have found that red wolves in captivity that eat a whole carcass diet, so like our wolves here, they have gut biomes that are much more similar to that of wild red wolves. And so that could kind of impact their chances of maybe surviving a bit better in the wild compared to red wolves in captivity that might eat kibble or like a mix of different types of meat, you know, like a carnivore log,
cool.
Something like that.
Okay. And then there's lots of questions that are sort of around, like, do you pet them? Do you go in with them? How do you do that? Can I have one as a pet?
Yeah, so you don't want a wolf as a pet.
Most of them already know that. For the
We a few years ago with Nakai, Zephyr, and Alea, we gave them a couch that someone had donated to us, and they destroyed it within about 5 minutes.
That's a really cool demo, actually.
So you definitely don't want them inside. But yeah, it's a good question. So Silus and Nakai are socialized, which means they are not afraid of people. It does not mean they're tame. They're not domesticated. It just means that, you know, when we come up for programs like this, they're not running away as a wild wolf would typically do. In order to get the wolves socialized, they do have a lot of human contact. So when you guys were here last year watching Silus as a puppy running around, you know, he's climbing all over Maya.
He chewed my shoes.
He's chewing shoes. Exactly. He's being very much like a dog puppy, you know, just exploring. But as wolves get older, we do want them to still continue to exhibit all of their wolf behaviors. We just don't want them to be afraid of us. So there does come a point where the ambassador wolves do move into their enclosure, and we then kind of pivot to more of a hands-off way of interacting with them. And the people who have consistent interactions are the people who were part of their, like the pup rearing process. So not the people who come in for a fun 30 minutes and bounce out. So I like to say that, when Silus was growing up, when Nakai was growing up, I kind of had the luxury of being like the fun aunt that comes in and you get to hang out. But then when it comes to like disciplining them, you don't have to do it. And you can then leave and go home and sleep. But with Silus and Nakai, raising a wolf pup is tough because you want to encourage them to, you know, be comfortable around humans. But if they're chewing on your arm, it might be cute when they're a puppy, but when they're a full-grown wolf and then they're chewing on your arm, it's not a cute behavior. So you want to encourage them to chew on things that are appropriate, but you can't just like yank your arm away and say, you know, no, because if you're yelling at them, that might start to build up a negative response. So it's like instead swapping your arm for like a deer bone. And it's very, very much an intensive process. And wolf pups don't sleep when you want them to. And so I don't have much contact with the wolves, but in a way it's also nice because it's a reminder to people that you can have connections with animals, you can have bonds with animals without actually having to live with them and be part of their everyday life. You know, I have never gone in the enclosure with Silus and Nakai in there as adults, but they know me, they recognize me, and I think it's really important for all of our supporters to know that you don't need to have that physical relationship with Silus and Nakai to make their lives better or to make wild wolves' lives better. Like you can, sometimes I think honestly, I have so much respect for people who are so dedicated to protecting wolves and they've never even interacted with one, you know, because it shows that they have so much empathy for an animal that they don't even need to see one to know that that animal is worthy of respect and appreciation. So don't feel like you have to pet a wolf. You can still really change their life.
Mm-hmm.